All right. Hello, everybody. I just want to let you know that I am Denise Cross, D Cross of Crossworks. And today I have a very special guest, Austin Camacho, who is going to be with us today, telling us a little bit about himself. So let me start off by asking you, are you originally from the DC area?
Well, no, actually, I'm not. I was born in New York City and lived there till about fifth grade, I think. And then we moved to upstate New York, Saratoga Springs, health, history, and horses. And I did all my growing up there. I didn't come to the Washington area until the Army dropped me at Fort Belvoir, which is in Northern Virginia. And then when I retired from the Army, I stayed here, had a federal job, and then just I like this space, so I hung out here.
Mhm. What kind of books did you read when you were young?
Wow. Well, I guess that depends on what you mean by young. The earliest things I can remember are the Dr. Seuss books, which I really like, and I think a lot of people don't realize that there's good storytelling there. If you look at the Cat in the Hat as an actual story where the stranger wanders in, causes all this trouble, there is a lot of tension through the book and suspense. That goldfish is really worried, but at the last minute, the cat straightens everything out and everything returns to normal at the end. And in a way, that's the pattern for any good mystery. There's the normal life, everything is disrupted, but we read those books because at the end we know everything's going to be straight. Now that was young. Um, Junior high, high school, I was reading paperbacks that I didn't know at the time, but they used to be pulp magazines. So The Shadow and Doc Savage and all of those. And that led into James Bond. And that kind of led into my adult reading, which really hasn't moved much from there.
So you were in the Army for quite a while. And by the
Yes.
way, thank you for your service. What influence did being in the Army have on your writing?
I don't know if my military service influenced my writing per se. Um, I started out as a maintenance soldier and they realized I was, too smart for that. And I ended up being a broadcast journalist. And what that process taught me, specifically Army wise, is how to meet a deadline and how to write whether or not you felt like it. I didn't have the option of waiting for my muse to visit or some brilliant idea to strike. I had to sit down and do it. And I think that has influenced how I work and what I do in the process of writing.
What were the things that made you become interested in? I know you said you read James Bond, but what did that specifically get you into mystery and crime as a genre?
Um, I guess there were two different sides to that. I love a good thriller, like the James Bond novels, and I suppose I wanted to lean in that direction originally, but I also got very hooked on mysteries, on specifically the mysteries of the early mystery, the 40s, the 50s, the Nero Wolfe stuff, Sam Spade and those guys. Um, and I think what hooked me in those stories, and there's an odd dichotomy here, because in thrillers the hero is always heroic, but in mysteries very often the protagonist is a more complex guy and he's kind of following his own idea of right and wrong rather than the society's idea of right and wrong. And I was very drawn to that idea that we each decide who is the good guy and who is the bad guy and what we need to do about it. I was drawn to that. So yeah, that really pulled me in.
Wow. So I have to tell you that the first book that I read of yours was The Troubleshooter.
My first novel.
Well, there you go. And I believe you actually autographed it for me. Thank you so much. And then
Yeah.
I just recently finished the Blood and Bone.
Hmm.
Yay. You can tell I'm a fan,
Yeah.
right? And what I'm interested in is how did you create the Hannibal Jones character, who's the hero of the stories?
Wow. Okay. Well, the troubleshooter was the first one, and I wanted to create an heroic character, and I wanted him to be, more melanated like you and me.
Mhm.
um, but it really drew on all those books I had read before, the Travis McGee and those characters who were helping people. Hannibal Jones, yes, he's a private eye, but he sees himself as a troubleshooter, and I wanted a character that would really help people. At the same time, those characters that I loved so much are really people from the past. So what I was trying to do is I was trying to get a hold of Sam Spade and Archie Goodwin and all those guys and drag them kicking and screaming into the 21st century. Those guys were very conservative by today's standards. And so in my books, and I hope you pick this up, Hannibal is always kind of being pulled back and forth. There's a thin line, for example, there's a thin line between chauvinism and chivalry. And Hannibal is kind of doing that balancing act of at what point is protecting that poor helpless woman become unacceptable. And I use his girlfriend Cindy as the foil to kind of, give him that metaphorical slap upside the head. So there was all of that mixed in. I think it makes for a complex character, and but somebody that you naturally like.
Mhm. So in the Army, I'm going to assume that you went to many different places, many exotic places. You've been to Europe, you've been to the African continent, et cetera, et cetera. So I have to ask you, what made you decide to place Hannibal's adventures in the Washington, D.C. area? And obviously from the question, I don't see
Well,
D.C. as exotic, I guess, because I was raised here. So why here?
well, yeah, Hawaii and Japan and is Ireland and England and Scotland and Germany, France, all those places. Um, they're probably interesting, but for a mystery, and my mysteries tend to be kind of on the hard boiled side, and a factor in that kind of mystery that I think people see, but maybe they don't realize. But there's a factor in that kind of mystery where you have natural conflict between the haves and the have-nots, the people that got it and the people that want it. And in the early ones, Dashiell Hammett and those guys, they all set in San Francisco, where that was the case right then. Now, here I am writing the end of the 20th century when I started this character, Washington, D.C. You know this area, so there are places where they have $1 million townhouses, and you can walk 2 blocks and you're in the poorest part of town. You're in, that housing, and there's that natural conflict there, and it makes setting a story very easy. And Hannibal being mixed race as he is, so there's that natural conflict with these two cultures, and he needs to be able to walk back and forth between those cultures, and between that, you're talking to the rich guys and you're talking to the people in the slums. It's just the perfect atmosphere, in my opinion, for that. And one other thing I'll mention very briefly: Washington, D.C. is not very big geographically, but there are a lot of neighborhoods, and they're chock-a-block. You cross the street, and all of a sudden you're in a different place. Wow, I was just in Chinatown, but now, and I love that. I like playing with that.
Mm, wow. So another question related to that.
Mm.
Hannibal, of course, is a series, and you have other series. I've always I'm kind of like a one-story person. I can't even conceive, even though people have suggested that I put into a series. How do you come up with different adventures for the same character?
Well, well, the the easy lazy response is every time I turn on the news, a
Mm.
story idea comes flying out at me. And it just a small thing, it picks up and it goes. The newest book, Subtle Felonies, started because they did a feature on the news about a baseball player, a local baseball player who was leaving the area and selling his multi-million-dollar house. The feature was about the house.
Hmm.
But as I'm watching this story, I'm thinking, wow, how does it affect somebody who was, well, in my story, playing basketball in the local school court, or this guy who was playing baseball? He was nobody, he was nothing. And what happens to you when all of a sudden you sign a contract that pays you millions of dollars a year? How does that change your life? And then that evolved to, well, that person is obviously a target for swindlers and for kidnappers or whatever. And also, what happens to their family? What happens to their friends? You guys are my posse, and we're all the same people still, except that I'm worth millions. How does that change? And that thinking brewed this novel, Subtle Felonies. That's where all of that came from. So
Wow.
yeah, watch the news, what's going on, and where's the story? That's me.
Yeah. Okay, you've given me some very good ideas. Now, you and your lovely wife, Denise, no relation, and friend Cynthia Love is founded the Creatures, Crime, and Creativity Con, aka the C3 Con.
Right.
And that was already 10 years ago. So how did that come about?
Well, actually, originally there were four of us. There was also Sandra Bowman, who writes as B. Swang and Webster, who has had some health issues and she's no longer directly involved. But we were all readers, fans. I was a writer, and I used to go to other conferences. And I went to this conference. In fact, we all went to this conference called Love is Murder in Chicago. And it was the first one I had been to that wasn't strictly a mystery conference. They had different genre there. And we came home and in conversation said, wow, I'd like to have something like that around here. Well, there isn't a nice conference around here. There are great conferences here just for writers, but there's no conference nearby for writers and fans and readers to get together. So, we corresponded with them, and they said, well, we can't, it's like we can't franchise it or something, because that's what we want. We were going to do Love is Murder East. And they weren't interested. And so after we talked a while, we said, okay, I've been to a lot of conferences. And then this is one of those things that is a fatal flaw that keeps coming up in my life. And someday I'll tell you lots of other references, but this is what happens. See something that you want to do, and we're all sitting around and talking and say, we've been to a lot of these things, and we see how it works and we know what we like. And How hard could it be? That's where the trouble starts. So how hard could it be? Okay, let's do it. And so, having no idea, we just threw some dollars together and found a place. Um, my D, the other D, had been involved in some events and done some event planning, so she knew how to deal with the hotel and whatnot. I had been to conferences and made a lot of friends in business, so I knew a lot of writers I could drag into it, and we just kind of put it together and lost our shirts the first 2 or 3 years, but it was too much fun to stop. And it has grown and has become a conference that a lot of writers really look forward to because it is informal and they get a chance to hang out with other writers, but also to hang out with people who just love to read. And I think that it's a little unique. It's different from other types of events.
I
So
agree.
anyway, that's how that happened.
Yeah, wow, that's how that came about.
That's how that
So,
happened.
so what are your plans for yourself? And feel free to add any appearances that might be coming up. And what are your plans for the con?
Wow. Okay. Well, the conference will continue every year until I would guess until all four of us are dead. We're not going to stop it. And every year we find some very, very talented writers who are silly enough to attend and join with us. So we have a good time. That's going to go on. And so every September, in this case, it is
Don't worry,
oh
I have it up on
13th, 14th, and 15th.
there you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, aside from that taking up a good chunk of my life, um, I just released Subtle Felonies, and I'm doing a lot of things to try to promote that. So I don't know when the world will see this, but tomorrow I'm at the Barnes and Noble in Woodbridge. Now I'll be signing books there. On November 4th, I'll be at the Rappahannock Writers Conference, which is Virginia. That's down in Germanna Community College in Fredericksburg. But I'll be presenting there. I do a class on conflict and suspense for fiction writers that people like. And we'll also be talking about different paths to publishing. There's a lot of it there. Okay, so that'll be that. Then November 10th, 11th, and 12th, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I'll be at the Northern Virginia Christmas Market. That's in Chantilly, Virginia. And we'll be promoting all of the Intrigue Publishing books. But of course, since my new book is there, I'll be there all 3 days to sign them. We always have a lot of fun. And we take in a lot of money, but we don't bring home a lot of money because everything that all the books I sell there, well, that money stays there, but my Christmas shopping gets done. Now, right after that, Wednesday, November 15th, I'll be at Meet the Authors Night. They have a book fair at the University Club downtown in DC. That's from 5:30 to 8 p.m. And they'll have just authors there signing our books. It's fun every year. I go every year. And that's geez, that gets me through my fall, doesn't it?
Yeah, most of the
And
fall.
winter
At
is
least
usually pretty quiet.
let me share with the audience your website
Oh,
and
of course.
also your let me kind of
There it is.
maneuver this. So if they want to get in touch with you, they should definitely put ascamacho.com.
Yeah.
We can see your subtle felonies, what the book looks like. Good old Hannibal Jones showing up there. You're already here. And Austin Noir at the Bar, the home edition. I like that. So we know how to get in touch with you this way, but I'm also going to show the Creatures Con and Creativity, which is
Thank you.
spelledoutaltheway.com. Again, we can see when the dates are going to be September the 13th
Yep.
through 15th. I'm planning on being there. But I also want to bring attention to our viewers that scholarships are available. And it was through my applying for the bookbinder scholarship that I was able to go this year. And I will let it be known, I don't think I can double dip. So anybody
No.
who would be interested in getting basically all of the panels, all of you get room and board if you get this scholarship. And I guess maybe I should even say we are thinking about adding another scholarship to this. The husband and I are thinking about adding another scholarship so that some other very fortunate person besides myself can take advantage of this wonderful con. You know, it's a great opportunity, and I think a lot of people will enjoy it. So once again, I want to thank you so much for letting us have a little bit of your time. And I really did enjoy myself. I enjoyed everything that you said. You gave me some good ideas as far as writing is concerned, to listen to the news, which is something I don't know how it can apply to science fiction, but guess what? I'll bet there is going to be a way that it will.
I
Because
can tell you
science is
how.
always evolving, right?
I can tell you how.
How?
The important question for you to ask when you watch the news is what if?
Ah,
And listen to the whole, okay. The most tragic thing I saw this morning was a mass killing in Maine, and that guy is still on the run. They know who it is, but they haven't found him.
mm,
If the exact same thing was done 20 years from now, how would the investigation go differently?
wow.
There's
Okay.
there's your sci-fi spin.
There's my
Or
sci-fi story.
if it was maybe you're a fantasy writer. What if the exact same thing happened, only it's in a castle, and this guy they only have swords and knives, and they don't have all this forensics, and that guy's lost running in the woods, and how do they find him? Whole
Wow.
different story. What
Wow.
if what if the person who came to do all of this killing is not from this earth? What if it was like a predator type character who just came down and wreaked all this havoc? And they know when they examine the bodies, they say, wow, well, these aren't bullets. What, some sort of beam of energy or something? What, anyway, just ask yourself what if, and you'll see a story in every news story you
That's incredible. Thank you so much. Well, I really enjoyed it. This was a great learning process, and I look forward to getting it up on the YouTube and sharing it with all of the listeners and all of your friends too. Say hi
Great.
to the other Denise for me,
Of
and to
course.
Cynthia. And you take care. We'll talk again soon.
Okay, you take care. Bye bye now.
Bye.